Let the games begin.
Yes, okay, so good evening, everybody. I'm Dave Martinson, and I am a health and well-being coach. It's my privilege to host our Creating Optimal Health series, and we decided to do this series to offer another layer of connection for our community, for people on the journey towards optimal health. Opportunity for people to connect and talk and share, and in this case, learn about Dr. A's book. So we're going to be going through Dr. A's Habits of Health book, chapter by chapter. If you have it, great. Try to keep it up to the reading so you can understand what we're going to talk about. If you don't have it, that's okay too. If you want to get it, you can always order it. But it's not necessary to be on this call. And then we're also going to be using his companion guide called Living a Longer, Healthier Life as well. And that, so that's kind of what the work we're going to do through these series of calls. And today we're going to be discussing chapter 1, which is called It's Not Your Fault. And then in parentheses, that you're struggling with your weight. And that's what it's called. So the series is going to be held on the first and third Wednesdays of each month at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. It's going to be recorded and posted to our Creating Optimal Health Facebook group. And you can join us live each first and third Wednesday of the month. So we're happy to have you here and appreciate you guys all being on. So I did want to, I'm going to share my screen a little bit here, on and off. And just going to start out with sharing this, which is kind of what I just read, but if you want to take a screenshot of it so you got that information, that'd be great. After that, this is the book study, right? So it's Dr. A's Habits of Health, and you can see here, actually I can't see it because my pictures are over it. This little quote I took from the book, Achieving Optimal Health requires us to take charge of our own health by actively creating health.
Hey Dave, can you actually mute everybody's phone?
Maybe.
I was gonna say, I think the leader's supposed to be able to, but I don't know how. I mean, we could each mute our own if that would be easier.
All right. I think everybody's muted. Although the purpose of this call, I'm going to have to unmute you guys all in a second, because the purpose of the call, this is the format of this call is not me just doing a big spiel about this. This is a discussion for I mean, everybody, you don't have to join in, but you're welcome to. And encouraged to join in the discussion, to share your thoughts, share your feelings. I'll try to keep the conversation going and really just try to be able to take this chapter 1 and kind of put a place where we're starting and how we're going to go through this book series and learn, okay? And hopefully it'll help us all on our health journeys, okay? So bear with me as I figure out and navigate this my little presentation. So right here, I just wanted to show you guys. This is part 1 of the book, and there's several parts in it. But this is called Preparing for Their Journey, and there's several chapters in this before we move to part 2. And so I just want to share this because this is really about preparing for your journey. So when we're reading the book, it's okay, so where are we now and how are we going to progress through this journey towards optimal health? Whoa, sorry. So chapter 1 is called It's Not Your Fault, and that's what we're going to focus on tonight. This chapter, it's not your fault you're struggling with your weight. So before I go into this, let's see. I guess what I want to find out, if anybody who read the who was able to read the chapter. Just kind of start off with just trying to get a feel of what you guys are like. So what did you learn? What did you see in there that was interesting? What about what the chapter was about? So actually, who actually read besides me? Just so we. Gary, did
I
you?
read, but
Doug?
No, I'm waiting to hear from you.
Bonnie?
It's been a while.
All right, Sherry, it's me and you.
I read it.
Maureen read it.
Oh, good. All right.
nice.
Okay. So, for me in the book, it's talking about, and I grabbed a quote from the book to share with you guys and sort of to really start the discussion. So it's this quote right here. So our bodies are programmed to hold on to our calories for the sake of survival. So when you diet, you're really fighting your own nature. So in that, what I learned in this is that we're not active. We're not as active as our ancestors. It really talks about how active they were, fight or flight kind of thing. And that we are so active, we needed to consume more calories. So now at times we're sitting at a desk, we're sitting in a car, we're sitting on a couch, and we're not using the energy we did. And if you go out to eat at a restaurant, the portions are 8 times that of the FDA guidelines. So it's very interesting to kind of understand that when you do go to a restaurant and they bring you a big piece of steak and a giant pile of potatoes and this food, that you're eating such a large portion. And for me, understanding, I'm hoping that there's some understanding of how much you eat, what's the proper portion size, and these kind of things. And this book really talks about in here. It's interesting because the titles of each little section, the storage factor. We store so much. Our bodies always want to store fat. We're going to store stuff for emergency. So and we're eating so much of it that it ends up being a place where we're just gaining weight because our bodies are storing and we're not burning it off. And that's the factor that we have to consider when we're making choices of what we're eating. So it talks about this supersized generation. It talks about how the food industry has added so much to the foods and how much sugar we're eating, how much what was that other stuff called? The high fructose corn syrup. So when we look at this chapter and looking at a place where we're beginning a health journey and understanding what's going on in the society and how we're marketed to, you can go to McDonald's and get any size soda for $1. So, it's a good deal. Let's go buy a 97-ounce soda to carry around, and without considering, what you're having. So you're marketed into doing that because that's a better deal. And you can go through every type of restaurant and every type of store, bulk packages of stuff. And so the challenge of our society is understanding how do we, being marketed all the time, how do we then move to making these choices for us and understanding what we should and shouldn't eat. It does, there's a lot of talk about, okay, so you can diet and you can work out. Well, you go work out, but you're not changing your diet. That doesn't help. And if you are dieting and then you're not working out, that doesn't help out. And then when you're dieting and then you go off the diet and you just go back to your regular daily routine, now you're putting all those calories back on and your body has now reacting to that and starting to store again, going into storage mode. So these are things that we have to sort of understand at the beginning of our journey, so that as we go through our journey, we're understanding that the challenges and how do we make changes. So I'll go back to my little slide here. And so, so basically, I talked about the food industry sabotaging your health. The average American consumes 26 spoonfuls of sugar a day, yet we only need one spoonful to operate our entire bloodstream. That's 135 pounds of sugar a year. It's an amazing statistic. And then I never really knew what high fructose corn syrup was. I figured, hey, corn must be healthy. But no, this thing is an addictive ingredient that actually is worse than sugar. Keeps your body from producing key hormones to regulate your energy cycle. So this is something that causes diabetes and liver. These are the things that lead to that. So these are things to be considering when you're trying to understand, okay, so what's it about and how do we not eat this stuff? So does anybody relate to the stuff I'm talking about? Hello? Come on. Somebody say.
Okay, sorry. Say the question again.
Who can relate to some of this stuff? Who goes to the store and buys the big? It's a deal. I get the big gulp instead of regular soda because it's the same price and I can get more.
Well,
All
that's
the
the
time.
thing. Our economy is so busy about saving money and cheaper, so you buy bulk and then you wind up eating bulk because you've got it.
Yeah, and definitely the things that are not as healthy are cheaper. So even when you're on a budget for a family, those are the things I used to go to more just because that was the price, not even really understanding what might have been healthier, just knowing that based on the price, I'm going to get more for my money. How exciting.
Well, and I see that too at church in the ACT office because the food that is donated and the food that they can purchase cheaper volume is like higher in carbohydrates and sugar, and so that the people you see that are of lower income are heavier people. They're eating lots of bread and
Why?
tortillas and macaroni and
What?
cheese because it's cheaper.
Why? For what? There
I
might
can
be
hear
rice in there.
I can hear someone in the background.
Sorry. So those are the things that as we do, I kind of look at this as a starting point. So we're learning, okay, so this is where we are. And so how do we then create health in our life? So one of the things I wanted to show you.
Chili and cornbread.
Picture.
I made it fresh, just no one ate it right then.
All right, so over here and on the right side,
There's also Caesar salad down there.
optimal health, sick and non-sick.
No, I didn't make it today.
Non-sick and sick. But what I really liked about this and what I really learned, and it was kind of an eye-opener to me, especially when I was going on in my journey to learn about how to lose weight and how to get healthy. I was not sick, and I was not healthy, so I guess I was non-sick. So I was right in that zone. So basically what I understood is that I was on a path towards sickness. So my curve was going down because of my choices that I was eating. When I look back and see how I was treating myself, I was on the direction of sick, although I wasn't sick. So by how do we move the needle so that it's going up? How do we move from being sick or not sick to optimal health? I mean, it sounds good that I'm not sick, but it sounds better if I'm healthy or optimally healthy. So the questions, and these are directly from this chapter, how do we create health so that disease doesn't occur? So this is a question doctor is asking. And then he asks the next question. What can you do for yourself to combat an ever-increasing waistline and avoid the slippery slope towards disease? Okay, so he does answer those in here, and the whole book is an answer to those questions. But so for you guys, who understands and who really kind of gets a picture of being, whether you're sick, not sick, and optimally healthy? and understands the direction you might be heading.
Well, I definitely would say I'm noticing a difference in, because I would also say that when I started getting healthy and wanting to prioritize that, I wasn't sick either as far as disease, sick problems, but as far as not having energy, and like you said, the needle was going, as you get older too, you have other, not as much energy and mobility and stuff if you're not fueling your body with enough energy and exercising more, doing that stuff. So even though you're not sick, you don't really feel very energetic, I guess you would say. So now that I have
Picking up my daughter from Crowell.
been
Thanks.
doing new habits of fueling my body, there's something that really feels very different about what that feels like. But one of the things in the book too, just because I read the book, but obviously I didn't read it recently. But though I'm just so interested in that basically the habit of disease, that there was a research study that basically said that even 1 week of eating fast food or any higher calorie, higher sugar foods, that there was a direct indication on your health, experiencing elevated levels of ATL enzymes, the common indicator of liver damage, in just 1 week. So it's just amazing how we don't really pay attention to how the little things can add up to be unhealthy overall.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Anybody else have an understanding or any comment about that?
I came from a sick perspective, but my journey, my first time around, was, in my opinion, effortless. So I, from a sick perspective, I guess, being that I'm coming from a second time around, was a tad bit different. My experience is different. I'm more challenged, not with the understanding of what I'm doing, but the actual acts. But so far, I'm doing good this on the second time around. But it took me a great deal of mental challenges, chatter in my head to get me to the point to actually recommit a second time around and say, no, this is important for my life. This is important for my health. This is important for my happiness. This is important for so many reasons. And I just did it. But I came from a sick perspective, but
yeah. And so does the stuff in this chapter that we're talking about, the way the society is and the way the marketing is, and can you see how that leads to the choices of, I'm going to have a big drink and I'm going to have this, I'm going to have, and be making these choices that are not the choices of like the going towards the healthy.
absolutely.
Health. So
Everywhere you go, you're offered something that's not good for you. I just had a conversation with Michael, I believe. I think it was Michael. I don't know who I had it with. Just recently, whoever it was that I was talking to. But the concept of how I used to decide what my meals are going to be were based solely on finances. Solely. I'm a single male. I don't have children or a spouse to take care of. Nobody's going to make me food. I'm not going to make food. So I'm going to Taco Bell, McDonald's, Carl's Jr., and everywhere else that has food prepared, already made at a convenience, and I'll save money because I won't be spending all this time shopping and buying, tons of food at a time, and I won't have to throw a bunch of it away because it won't get eaten. So it was a justification cause. So I could literally honestly say that if it wasn't for Take Shape for Life, I would still live that lifestyle today, knowing what you're telling me. Because I'm afraid of failing financially, and I'm afraid of failing with the Albertsons or the Ralphs or the, wherever, Costco shopping and trying to prepare my own meals and doing it on my own. I'm 48. It's not happening. So this really, when I see the big picture, is completely life-changing. and I'm only going to get stronger through the program as I go. I can foresee how I've seen myself succeed and then fall back because of laziness and whatever. I can see the big picture of how you can get to your optimal weight and transition to a 3 and 3 and live a very happy, fun lifestyle by not losing out on other enjoyments in life when it comes to food, if you will.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my sharing.
Yeah. So basically what this is doing, what this chapter is talking about, it's pointing out what Dr. Ray calls habits of disease. And the habits of disease are these things like Doug's talking about, going to, I'm just going to go eat out quickly because it's easy for me. So a habit of ordering the largest drink at McDonald's and then getting it the full, 100%, like it's like, I don't know how many calories that would be. So these kind of habits are what he's talking about, are habits of disease. So this book's called Habits of Health. So this is what it's going to teach us. And I know that in 2 weeks, when we, after tonight and we read the next chapter, it talks about the habits of health and really gets into that, which will be very more looking at, okay, so here's some things. Can we create new habits? But right now, it's understanding, maybe looking at it and going, wow, these are bad habits, and understanding some of these habits of disease that are just surrounding us every day, and how can we then move past that? We may not know how to do that right now, but having the awareness of it is the first thing, and then understanding how to break those habits or how to create new habits is the next thing, and what are those? And we can, so in 2 weeks, we can talk about that. But I wanted to share what Dr. A had sort of, he asked those questions. How do we create health? How do we do it for ourselves? And so, which is, like I said, that's what the whole thing is about. So he says, so it's Dr. A's plan is about creating health to prevent disease from occurring. His plan is helping thousands of people take control of their health and forge new health path, one of optimal health and longevity. I've read the whole book, so when he says some of this stuff, I'm like, yeah, I know he's talking about. But for all of us, as we're reading just chapter 1 and knowing that, okay, so here's a foundation of this habits of the disease that's happening. How do we move past it? And then he's basically saying there's a path. There's a path. He says there's a different path. And we'll teach you and create permanent health and the path to optimal health, and it's paved with the with the habits of health. So this is what this chapter kind of lays the foundation of. So we're understanding, we're aware, and I think this is one thing we can take from this is something that, in terms of a habit, what we call the habit of it's a mindfulness habit, is to have that mindfulness of being aware of the habits of disease that are around us, that other people are doing, and that we're doing, and maybe try to figure out how do you move past those so you don't choose those habits of disease anymore and you start choosing habits of health. And we'll talk about habits of health in the future, like I said, but right now, how can you observe these things in your life and make small changes? That's one of the things I like to see. If you guys can take that as a challenge, it's like, oh, okay, how do I do that? Sherry?
Yeah, I was going to say that would be the one thing I was kind of just reading through the page he talks about, but the idea of that awareness really, I mean, if you take weight aside and not focus on the scale and the weight and the diet part of it at all, but the fact that this is coming from a critical care physician who, I mean, he's quoted in here by saying that, the medical model is geared for curing illness rather than creating health and well-being. And his plan is about creating health to prevent disease instead of trying to help you after you're already diseased and ill because you're not paying attention to the choices that you have. And then Thomas Edison, he has a quote in here too by Thomas Edison that says, "The doctor of the future will give no medicine, but will interest his patients in the care of the human frame, in nutrition, and in the cause and prevention of disease." So just more about those kind of mindful and that's really what I'm trying to have my kids do right now, because none of them really need to lose weight, but let's make a choice about, especially because they're still athletic and doing stuff. So even just the mindfulness about, okay, let's make a choice right now about what you need to fuel your body for whatever activity you're going to be doing. So just the awareness, I just think that's a huge piece. And the fact that it's coming from a doctor about the industry that I'm not very educated about, you know, his perspective of how that is for everyone. But for me personally, the awareness of just what your options are, and it kind of gives you good choice to feel like you actually have options instead of just same old. And it can be good if you're moving forward with thinking differently about long-term health.
Yeah, absolutely. So I sort of want to wrap this up for you guys. And the way I see this is we're starting it and we're building, right? He calls this step one. And so we're building. So step one is understanding what's out there, habits of disease, the choices we're making, how our bodies work on us on just a little bit of a level of understanding. How much it just really likes to store fat, and we don't get as much exercise as we did it when we were cavemen. So now, with that, we set that groundwork, and and in this week maybe practice that and be aware of that. So, and for the next 2 weeks, and then when we get together again to talk about chapter 2, then we can start seeing and building on each piece. So these steps, a whole bunch of baby steps building into it through his steps and his phases through to optimal health. So it's not, and it's like Sherry said, and many people have said, the path to optimal health is not a sprint. It's a journey, and it's a long journey. Everybody's path is a different speed. Everybody's path is different. Everybody's way through the path is different. And so these are things that as a community of people who are looking at what does it mean to be optimally healthy and how do I get there, these are things we can bring up and say, hey, this is where I'm not understanding. Can you explain this? And so each of us can continue to learn from one another and what we've learned by through our readings and our daily lives of being observant to the habits of disease around us and the habits of health that we may see around us. So I just wanted to, let's see here.
Now I'll add one thing because I know you have a little summary to end with, but the only thing good?
I said that was my summary.
Ah, okay. Then I won't add it. I won't add it then.
I wanted to share this quick slide here, which basically says the next session is chapter 2, the path. The creation of optimal health. So that's Wednesday, February 15th at 7:30 p.m. Pacific. You can join us live each first and third Wednesday. We do appreciate very much your being on the call, participating, and being here. And we hope that you learned something, and that next time we get together, you can teach us something. So I thank you very much. And I hope you guys have a excellent evening.
Bye.